And those are the top stories we're covering for you here on France 24. Well, it's time now to find out what is making a splash online and in the media. It's Media Watch time with Emma James. Good to see you, Emma, as always. We're going to start in the UK, of course. It is voting day. Everyone's gone to the polls, including the dogs.
Absolutely.
And the horses. I saw a horse as well.
And a few cats.
Yes.
So there we go. The UK, a nation of animal lovers. And it seems that no matter how many elections get thrown at the public, they've had 3 in less than 5 years, it's worth pointing out. They never get tired of mixing pooches with politics.
They can't vote, just to point that out. Animals
no,
cannot
they
vote
can't.
in the UK.
But there is a hashtag dogs at polling stations, which people love every time there is a vote. This is one of my favourites. This is Millie, who looks terribly proud to be helping her human do his or her civic duty. There she is at the polling station. It's something that's proved really, really popular over the years. And it's quite handy for us broadcasters because we have strict regulations as to what we can and can't say right now.
What else can we talk about, right?
So absolutely, let's just talk about the dogs. There we go. There's a pug called Rupert doing his duty. And I love this one of a beagle.
Your favourite.
Absolutely. It took a lot longer to get these snaps than it did to vote. I'm not surprised because they're not necessarily the most obedient dogs in the world.
They don't like to stay still for long, do they?
Absolutely. So a Christmas theme for some of those dogs. Christmas or bar humbug theme, really, for Bob Moran in The Telegraph with this cartoon. Yes, I know you've been a good boy, says Santa, but if it's a hung parliament, nobody's going to get anything they want. I think I'm just about allowed to say that so that I don't prejudice anyone's vote who's still heading out there now. Now, it is the first winter election for 45 years. It's the first time people have gone to the polls since for a century, actually, in December. But it doesn't seem to be affecting turnout. The Evening Standard, which is a local London paper, says there's been huge queues and turnout across London. Now, the 20 times busier doesn't really, it's not the most factual one figure they've come up with there. That appears to be
20 times
attributed
busier than what?
than normal, but that quote is attributed to a rather random chap who just has tweeted about it. So not necessarily a scientific study of the numbers of turnout, which we're not allowed to tell you about anyway. But what I can tell you is there are lots of people tweeting images of queues like these. And lots of them are in London, but it's happening across the country. The biggest queue I've ever seen at my polling station, says this person. And it's happening at lots of places where young people are turning out. This is the University of Kent. This person's used the hashtag YouthQuake, because the youth vote is seen to be key for certain parties. We will have to wait and see exactly.
Lots of people registered to vote, didn't they, this time around?
Yes, absolutely. And it's worth noting that the UK has seen its number of people turning out fall in recent years. This person saying, don't let the long queues of people voting lull you into complacency. It is a cold, dark, wet evening. We will need every last volunteer to make sure people get out and vote. It used to be 80% of people would go to the polls back in the 1950s. That slumped. It's been in the mid-60s in recent years. In fact, it hasn't topped 70% since 1997, when Tony Blair's new Labour Party was elected. Some have had more trouble getting to the polls than others. In Southwark, in Bermondsey in particular, a burst water main provided a rather dramatic problem for some people. But you could still get through if you were on the right side of it. If you were on the other side, it was slightly trickier. You had to don your wellies, and it really was quite a scene there.
Dear.
Absolutely. It's also worth noting, though, that this poll from last night, so the eve of the election, 1 in 4 voters said they could still change their mind. Seems quite incredible. But if there is a question of voter fatigue, perhaps this is the way to address it. The kids are doing a mock election at school today where they're voting for the whole class to get either cupcakes or iced biscuits. What I'd give for those options.
If only. I wonder if was it Brenda in Bristol?
Oh,
I wonder if she voted. Not another one. I'd like to know if she turned out or not. Anyway, OK, well, that's what's going on in the UK. And we will, of course, bring you the results all night. Mark Owen will be here with that from 11 p.m. Paris time. Let's leave the election aside then and talk about something a bit closer to home. Roman Polanski, the film director, is on the cover of Paris Match, and a lot of people have said that is somewhat inappropriate.
Yes, absolutely. The convicted child rapist and film director Roman Polanski has given an interview to Paris Match, and there he is on the cover. It's billed as the big explanation. It follows further allegations of rape and assault. It hit the newsstands today. He complains that he is being depicted as a monster. Not too many people feeling all that sorry for him, unless they are huge film buffs.
And he's got a film out, of course, hasn't he? Is that why
he has, exactly. But he's responding to these accusations. He has accused the media of treating him with incredible violence. That is a quote. They seize on every new false accusation, he says, no matter how absurd, because it lets them bring up this story. It's like a curse which keeps coming back, and I could do nothing about it. Now, that this story he's referring to is actually something he's admitted to, the rape of a 13-year-old girl back in the 1970s. But frankly, what difference does when it happened?
Which he never, of course, faced justice for because he fled the country.
Absolutely. He pleaded guilty, and then when he thought he was going to be locked up for it, he decided to do a runner from the United States and has not served his full prison sentence for it. Now, last month here in France, he was accused by a French photographer, Valentine Monnier, of a new accusation. She claims he beat and raped her in 1975. This is why he's given this interview now. Now, she was driven from her silence, partly emboldened by Me Too, but also, I think, annoyed too by the very title of his new film, J'accuse, which is I accuse.
It's about the Dreyfus affair.
Exactly. And so it's got nothing to do with anything related other than that name. And she has come forward with her own accusation. A lot of people taking to Twitter, not happy at all about Paris Match's decision to have this on the cover. Decidedly no shame, says this person, basically allowing him to victimise himself or paint himself as the victim. And it makes her want to vomit. And she says at the end, yes, you are a monster. This person saying nothing surprising in his defence. It's the same arguments that people have used to encourage rape culture for forever. Why talk about it now? Where are the witnesses? And she says basically it makes her want to vomit. This gentleman too says that to give a platform to Polanski is deplorable. Not everyone in agreement, unless of course this is a joke. This gentleman saying that the interview with Polanski actually makes him want to go back and see J'accuse again. So I'm not sure if that's a joke, but there are plenty of people in France who do seem to excuse him of
Well, he does have a lot of support here in France,
exactly. They seem to think that because he is talented, then that's fine, he can do whatever.
And you mentioned Weinstein briefly as well?
Yes, only in so much as he says that Weinstein dug up the old accusations in order to sway the Oscar vote back in 2003. It's a bit of a spurious claim.
Okay, changing times. All right, shall we talk about something a bit happier?
Very, very quickly.
A very happy occasion, right in the middle of a train strike. We all need a bit of cheerfulness, don't we, on these grey days?
Well, this wasn't great for the woman in question.
No.
The RERD, one of the big lines in Paris, right in the middle of the rush hour in yesterday's strike, so terrible conditions, she chose to give birth. Well, not chose, but she didn't have a lot of choice, to be honest. She was advised against travelling, but got on the train anyway, and her waters broke a few stops later. That would have bought her a bit of room, I'm sure.
Going?
And she has given birth to a baby girl, and they are supposed to be doing well.
And free travel for life?
They haven't said yet. Maybe. Navigo for life, I don't know.
Gotta be, hasn't it? All right. I wonder what they're going to call her. All right, thank you very much indeed. Emma James there with Media Watch.